Artists put a lot of emphasis on inspiration. We have to stop letting inspiration be the thing that runs our lives. Today in my studio, I'm going to show you why it's really important to work even when you are feeling anything but inspired. Hey guys, what's up? I'm Charla Maarschalk. Welcome to my studio. There was a point in this painting where I realized I had made a promise to show my art, the good and the bad, and I thought I was going to be showing you the bad. Fortunately, for my sake, I managed to pull it together by the end of the painting, which is what I said in the last video. So I'm trying not to be repetitive here, but this time I am very serious. This painting was like me 5 years ago trying to paint. I don't know what happened. I just got into this place of stuckness. I began taking my own advice, which I often say to my students. When you are stuck, when you have a painting that you do not like, why stop? Why not use that opportunity to push forward with things that you really want to try? Because you have nothing to lose. At that point, your painting is bad. Do you really want to show that to the world? You can try something new. You might make it worse, but it's already bad, so who cares, right? So I took my own advice. Instead of giving up and instead of presenting to my channel a horrible painting, I would push forward, try some new things, and see what happens. And I thought at least I could show you that I tried new things and I took my own advice. So that's what I did. And it made a complete turnaround. I'm not even 100% sure why. I think it's that I let go of my inhibitions. I stopped judging myself. I stopped putting pressure that this next brushstroke was going to have to be the saving grace for this painting. As a precursor to that, I took a step back from my painting. I had some tea. I took my phone out, where I have in my photo app on my iPhone, I have an album titled Artists I Like, and every time I see a great piece come up on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, I save it or screenshot it and I keep it in this album. Those pieces are meant to inspire me in my work and where I want to go in the future. So I sat back on my couch, I grabbed my tea, I scrolled through this album and looked at what I hope to become as an artist. And I kind of got a little bit more inspired to what I actually was trying to achieve rather than just being stuck in front of this painting with my only vision being this bad brush strokes that I've made. And I kind of got my vision corrected and I went right back to it. I finished this piece in about, I would say within half an hour of that little break that I took, I saw the painting come together. You will very clearly be able to see where my painting started to change. I know our time is important, so let's get to work so you can see what I mean. We are artists, and the dream of the artist is when inspiration strikes, you're free to run into your studio and create from that inspiration the most incredible masterpieces that ever walked the earth. Well, that's not real life. That is a dream. And it's really nice if it happens, but we can't wait for that moment. We can't live for that moment. We can't decide that I don't feel inspired, so I can't work today. Art is business, art is life, and we have to work, we have to create, we have to learn, we have to live as artists. And I think that it's a stereotype that we kind of need to break, is that artist who jumps up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. to create. I would love to do that. I think that great art comes from those moments, possibly our best art, possibly the most incredible masterpieces. But if that's the only time that we create, then I really don't think we're really going to create much. It's awesome to live in that place of inspiration, that place of flow. It's incredible and almost miraculous to know how to get ourselves there. And I'm being completely honest, that's what I work towards, getting myself to this place where I can create freely in flow when inspiration hits. Because there's probably nothing more satisfying than having this piece of art from one of those sessions in my studio. I think wanting to live that life is almost like wanting to own a $10 million company. You can't just go from working at McDonald's to owning a $10 million company, you kind of have to work your way there. Sure, you could buy that company, but where are you going to get the money to buy that company? The bank's not going to give you money if you've never earned any money. So you can't go from McDonald's to owning that business. You kind of have to earn your way there. I spoke about this a little bit in my last video. It was about how to create easy art. In order to enter into flow, you have to have a very low difficulty level of work. So if you're learning something new, you will have a much harder time to enter into flow. And if you're always searching for flow, you're probably never learning anything new because your difficulty level has to be at 4%. And I think that's kind of like working from inspiration. If you're waiting for inspiration to hit before you give yourself permission to create, you might just be waiting a really long time. Inspiration comes from experiences and emotional connections and relationships and seeing something that moves you. I mean, I'm not even going to go into where inspiration can come from. There's so many places that we get inspired, and every artist and every human is different in how they become inspired. But you can't just be inspired and jump into the studio and create a masterpiece. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have something behind that. You have to have practice behind that. You have to know what you're going for and how to get there before you can just work a masterpiece out of inspiration. But the other side of that is inspiration just doesn't hit all the time. Sometimes we're tired. Sometimes life is hard and stressful. We're grieving, we're depressed, we've got anxiety. I mean, there's a million things that come up on us every single day. I think we all can relate to our mental health, not necessarily being in a place where we want to go into the studio and work 10 hours straight to create a masterpiece. When we are in those places, it's important to keep building practices in our art. Now, when you're really down or when you're grieving or feeling very, very tired, it's probably not the best time to go into a studio. Although I have a 15-year-old son who is a really great musician, and he constantly talks about how he is way more inspired to write when he's tired. My point is, we as artists need to stop letting inspiration run our life. We need to work like our life depends on it, because it does. Number one, we're artists, and we want to be able to earn a living doing what we love. Therefore, it's a business and we have to work because our life depends on that. Number two, we're artists, and artists carry messages, important ideas and thoughts to get out into the world. We want people to be taken for just even a moment out of their hectic lives to think about and consider other ideas, other concepts, to maybe inspire them to do something more with the life they've been given. Those are two things that motivate us as artists. Our life does depend on getting the work done. So we have to work like our life depends on it. And that's sometimes night and day, during the week, on the weekends, during holidays. Sometimes it means being an entrepreneur, starting your own business and working non-stop until you're off the ground. And then when you're off the ground, you're usually flying and there's way much more work to do. So I like to say, stop letting inspiration run your life. When it hits, run like hell to catch it. Don't let it fly through you and escape, but don't wait for only inspiration to come before you work. My daily practice includes thinking about, considering, really pondering quite a bit where I want my art to go. I like to consider where I see my art in a year or 5 years. I don't want to be painting the exact same thing I'm painting today, or that's definitely not the thing I painted last year. Like every aspect of my life, I want it to grow and build and just become bigger and produce more fruit and produce more beauty and affect more people's lives. In order for that to grow, I need to be thinking about where I want it to be going. So that might be as simple as a new color palette, which I've been thinking a lot of it lately. That can be the techniques that I want to learn. Where do I want it to go? Do I want it to go to other shows, into galleries? Do I want to take on other ways to get my art out there into people's lives? So when I'm not in the studio, I'm thinking about those things. Where is it I want my art to go? In order to move forward, I need to get in the studio and practice those thoughts. So it requires a little pre-planning. It requires some very intentional moves in the studio where I'm practicing those things that I want to learn. It's my experience that I can often do those things better when I'm not inspired to paint. Normally, if I'm inspired to paint, it's because something has really hit me, something beautiful or something sad or an experience where I have a new understanding on the world in general. So when that happens, I usually get an image, I start sketching it, that sketch kind of comes together, and I just can't even wait to get into the studio. Right now I do have this one image in my bank that I am really excited to paint. And a couple of videos ago I talked about fermenting creativity. I'm just keeping that image down there fermenting and bubbling and growing and maturing until I have time to get into the studio. So that inspiration has hit me. I did the sketches, I worked through that idea, and I'm allowing it to ferment before I run with it. Now some days I will run. I will just get to the studio as quickly as I can and start painting. Other days I let it ferment, and then other days I simply work on the tools I want to learn in order to expand my artistic vision. And those are the days I get into the studio when I'm not inspired at all. I treat this like a job because it is a job. That's why I treat this like a job. A job doesn't have to be a 9-to-5 where you go into an office and work for a company that you're not motivated to succeed. A job can be you as a stay-at-home mom. A job can be you in a cubicle. A job can be you in your art studio. And therefore, I want to work on that every single day, because every day I don't is another day gone by where I could have moved forward, and instead I possibly taking steps back if I'm not working at it. That's why I say, don't let inspiration dictate when you paint. Don't let inspiration run your life. Paint, work, create like your life depends on it, whether you feel inspired or not. And you will just jump leaps and bounds ahead of where you were last year if you're in there working every single day. But I by no means mean don't work and stuff inspiration away and don't run after inspiration, because I believe that painting from your heart, painting from the fruit of your life, painting from your hopes and dreams and your experiences, those are the absolute best pieces of art. And I'm all about message and purpose. But in order to be an excellent artist, in order to be an artist that makes other people stop in their tracks and look at your work, you have to be willing to learn and to grow and to work really, really hard.